Welcome to the podcast, Happy and Single. I'm your host, Joseph Anderson. You can find me on Instagram at the It's Possible Guy, and you can find the podcast on Instagram at Happy and Single. Feel free also there to ask your different topics and things that you'd love to hear me talk on as well. But today the topic, so this is episode 43, I believe, and today's the topic is how do I begin to trust again? I happened to talk to an old friend this morning that I haven't talked to in quite some time. And she shared with me how she's beginning to have a really hard time trusting again. And so, as I reflected on that today, I thought that might be super helpful for everybody. How do we trust again? When somebody betrays our trust, how do we trust again? When somebody hurts us or cheats on us, whether it be a boyfriend, a girlfriend, whether it be a spouse, how do we go forward? We go forward in degrees. I am not the person that would ever tell you, guys, you just got to start trusting again. What is wrong with you? That's not me. I think some of us, and this might sound bad, some of us trust way too much in other people and get taken advantage of. I've been in that situation. A story that was coming to my mind, and some of this may get a little bit personal on my end, but I mean no ill will to the people that I speak about if they ever hear this. There was a girl that I dated years ago, like many, many, many years ago. And it was interesting because I went away for the summer and I came back and we were supposed to celebrate my birthday. And when I came back, she was just like, that night was just horrible. Like it was just plain awful. I wish that it would never happened. I wish she would have just simply said, hey, Joseph, I have no interest in seeing you anymore. There's some other avenues I want to explore. We're not doing this. Because that night was so, so, so painful. So how do we trust again? I don't think we have to be like incredibly, incredibly cautious. I just think we have to be in tune. If my ear is in tune, I can tell the difference when a guitar is playing the right chord or playing the wrong chord. The same goes for you. Like, even if you don't know how to play a guitar, you know either when a guitar is in tune or when someone's at least playing the right notes. For the most part. Guys, that's all we have to do. It's not about that person. It's not about, don't give them that sense of power. Don't give them that at all. I mean, they've already taken whatever they've taken from you. And you can't do anything about it. As many of you know, I'm a huge advocate of the program, The Artist Way. And I talk about it frequently because of how much it's helped me. Well, this is the third time I'm going through the program, and this is the third week. And she nicknames this week Anger Week. And I had a realization that somebody that was super important in my life years ago did something that hurt me, and I never even realized what it was until a few nights ago. Well, it was really interesting because I went through probably 2 days of being a little bit just unsettled is probably the best word for it. And I did. I spent plenty of time in prayer. I spent plenty of time reflecting, exploring, because it was a pretty deep hit. I had no idea that this thing had happened. Well, every single one of us have, I don't want to call them these wounds. I don't really like that word. But for lack of better word, we all have these wounds. But most of them we don't even know about. We have things that have happened to us in our past that really do affect us. But once we're grown adults, and once we recognize and realize that somebody did something years ago to affect us, it's on us to figure out and do the work. It's on us to figure out how do we go forward. I can tell you guys, looking back and cursing the person or cursing the time or however long you've spent wasted is never going to serve you. And it's actually just going to make things worse. In this particular instance, I found myself talking to one person that I'm fairly close to, that I trust. And they just listened. They just listened. And they did such a wonderful job at listening. And that person happens to be my mom, who's just amazing. She actually listens to this podcast. She's not single. She's happy, but she's not single. She's married to my dad, but she listens to each of these, and I'm so grateful for her now that she was able to just listen. Guys, sometimes we just need to be listened to. And the funny thing is, this incident didn't really concern my mom that I was speaking of. I just wanted someone to listen. It's interesting because things do happen to us in our lives. Like, that's just the way it goes. I remember another experience. There was another girl that I got a little bit vulnerable. And this was actually before I was even okay at playing the guitar. This was back when I just was not good at playing the guitar at all. And I took the guitar on a particular date. And only this girl would probably know who she is. Hardly anyone else would know who this is. But I took her on a date and I ended up playing guitar. And she actually ended up making fun of me to one of my friends. Wow! It's like, okay, here I am being vulnerable, knowing that I'm not the best guitar player in the world because I didn't practice, but that's another story. I practice now and I'm actually okay. But here I was being vulnerable and putting myself out there, and and with this individual, I'd shared some very personal things. Guys, don't share personal things too early. Sometimes we get in that just like, I don't know, we just get in this haze, and we just start like connecting with a person on a certain level, and we start sharing way too much. Don't overshare. You will have plenty of time to share whatever you want to share with the person as the relationship unfolds. And I think sometimes we want to share with somebody, especially if you're somewhat like me, in that I just connect with very, very, very few people on a romantic level, very few girls. It's like you find someone that's even close to what you're looking for, and you're like, oh my goodness, I've been looking forever. I want to share this with you, and I'll share this with you, and I'll share this with you. Guys, the more you share, if that person betrays your trust, the harder it's going to be. And hopefully, I think, all that individual did was just kind of make fun of my guitar skills and not the other things that I shared with her. So I'm very grateful for that, as far as I'm aware. But we really do. We have to be cautious of who we share things with. And if somebody's sharing, I want you guys to know this. If somebody's sharing things with you that are super personal about somebody else's lives that aren't theirs and have nothing to do with them, they're probably doing the same thing to you. So stop oversharing. Share it at the appropriate levels. You will have plenty of time to share what you want to share with that person as the relationship unfolds. And especially those that haven't been in a relationship a really long time. Like for myself, when I fall very hard and fairly fast because there's just not that many girls I connect with like that. You know, so we get to decide what we share. And there's plenty of times in the scriptures it has kind of a phrase, line upon line, precept on precept. And sometimes we just want to share with people like the biggest of the big. I think we just get excited. We get excited about the opportunity and the prospect of having this person in our life. And there is something to be said. The more vulnerable we are, we do connect with people at a deeper level. And maybe at some level, we're almost looking for somebody to fill whatever we feel our wound is. But there's also ways to do that by yourself. I'm not making you wrong if you do it. I'm just sharing with you. The best form of therapy, counseling, coaching, I mean, obviously you can, if you're super interested in getting coaching, you can call me or message me. But the cheapest way I've ever found of getting getting coaching, counseling, and therapy like all in the same time is The Artist's Way. It's a $20 book. You go through a 12-week program. The biggest investment is your time. But guys, if you're struggling and if you're really wanting to figure out what's going on and want to unearth it, that's how you do it. Part of it is doing these morning pages where you just write for 3 pages longhand. I know that sounds really long, and it is. And the first time I tried it, I lasted like a week or two, and I was like, I can't do this. This is too much. But guys, I'm telling you, I was told about that program 4 years ago by my mentor, Michael Neal, and I wish I would have done it way back then. But I started it about, the first time 6-7 months ago. And then I did it again, and now I just started it for a third time a few weeks ago. I can't tell you any other program that I've been through that has had that level of impact in my life. And in those morning pages, what they really are, it's kind of like in that Tom Sawyer book. Oh, yeah, Tom Sawyer, where they think they're dead, and so this riverboat starts cannonballing the water. That's all you're doing. You're cannonballing the water to see what dead bodies are going to rise to the surface. And it might surprise you. And then be kind to yourself. Have compassion with yourself where you are. Sometimes being a 37-year-old male in the world, and sometimes thinking about and looking back on my past life about how I could have gotten where I'm at quicker if I would have just followed this inner voice that I talk about, this spirit, this still small voice, whatever you want to call it, that leaves you feeling peace. But I can't go back, guys, and neither can you. The other story that keeps coming to my mind of somebody that lost a lot of time was that of Nelson Mandela, who was in prison for like 30 years. 30 years of his life were wasted. But they weren't wasted. He made the most out of them. I know there's certain people that go into prison, even unjustly. And I've known at least one that went in and made the most of their time there. They learned so much and they were happy, and the circumstances were very strange with that situation. But they made the most out of their life. They'd been unjustly thrown in jail. And they made the most out of it. Oh my goodness, the other example that comes to my mind is that of Joseph of Egypt. There was something really interesting that came to me. And for those of you that are members of my faith, there's the Book of Mormon in First Nephi chapter 5. I think it's verse. I don't know, there's a verse that basically talked about Joseph of Egypt, and it talked about how God preserved Joseph so that Joseph could preserve all those people. Yes, the irony is not lost on me. That is also my name. And it was really interesting as I studied this morning. And plenty of times, like I spent, this morning just reading a scripture or two over a fairly long period of time. Because I more so like to marinate in the scriptures and just, which is another word for sit there and just kind of hold them and listen to soft music and see what comes up from the Spirit. But that was a point that was driven home very hard this morning to me. And I also noticed another thing. It said that, God preserved, which if you separate the words preserved, it means pre-served. I've never seen that before, and I thought that was really interesting. That basically God serves us in advance, and we're able to serve other people. God was able to save all those people, by taking care of Joseph first. Now, Joseph probably didn't think he was being taken care of. He didn't think he was being preserved. He was in prison for the 13 of the best years of his life. And even in the moment that he thought he was going to get out, like he probably totally thought he could trust that butler and baker. Probably totally thought he could trust them. And they went and they forgot about him for 2 entire years. Well, I guess one of them was dead, but the other one that left forgot about him. I think it was the butler, if I remember right. I could be wrong. It was the butler in the kitchen with the knife. I'm just kidding. But I think it was the butler, and he forgot about him for 2 years until Pharaoh had this dream, and then he's like, oh my goodness, I remember. I was supposed to tell you about this guy that interpreted my dream in jail. Guys, I have had plenty of people that I have helped as a coach in my life that really have not given me any sort of credit. I've had people that have struggled with the same thing for years and years and years, and all of a sudden they start working with me and their life instantly changes and they think it's just them. And it is them. But it's also using the 18 years of coaching skills that I've acquired. And sometimes that hurts. But you know what? I've got other people that rave about me to everybody because of the work that we've done together. I don't control either side of that. And I don't, there's somebody once said, don't let your highs be too high and your lows be too low. There's something about maintaining somewhat of an equilibrium. I'm a fairly happy, energetic, excited person. But I am so much more even keel than I've ever been in my life. I get happy, I get excited. But I'm also fairly even keel. Guys, when it comes to trust, it's okay to step in the water slowly. It's okay to step in the shallow water and work your way up to the deep end. Can you imagine if you were on a first date? Actually, I've more been this first date. I'm the guy that asks super, super deep questions because I don't really care as much about the shallow stuff. Then again, the shallow stuff is sometimes what people's lives are built out of. And we kind of start in the shallow end. I I had an old friend that basically would tell me, he's like, Joseph, like you gotta start asking people, like, hey, what's your favorite music? What's your favorite movies? Not just, hey, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or tell me about what, whatever, story I would ask. I'm a story person. Allow yourself to go as comfortable as you can. I mean, I almost picture like one of my nephews just walking in the shallow end of the pool until he builds his way up to the little bigger end and a little bigger end and a little bigger end. And then finally he's in the deep end. You don't have to rush, and you also don't have to answer any questions you're not comfortable answering. I mean, I've heard of people asking some. I'm not even gonna say what type of questions, but just we'll just say very very deep, and I would call almost inappropriate questions. You don't have to answer any question that you don't want to. And if a question makes you uncomfortable, just tell the person that. Just say, hey, like, I'm not comfortable answering that question. And let them decide whether, I mean, like, let them think whatever they want about it. Who cares? And if they don't respect you, get out. If they're not going to request the simpleness of your request, get out. Well, and it's interesting because what's occurring to me now is like, we want people to trust us. Like, the more open people are with me, I just feel it's like super cool. But at the same time, go at your speed, go at your pace. Don't let anyone else dictate how quickly you want to go in a relationship. And one thing that strikes me is I think one of the reasons we go so quickly in a relationship, especially people that are members of my faith or those that have waited a long time to think about, getting serious with somebody, when we haven't met that many people that strike us, it's like, oh, wow, this is different. This must be it. Guys, there's so many different levels to connect with somebody. You can have spiritual chemistry. You can have playful chemistry. You can have, there's a lot of different chemistries. I can't think of all of them, but think about whatever ones are important to you. There are so many different chemistries out there that you can have. So sometimes we think just because we click a little bit with somebody and haven't clicked hardly at all with other people, we're like, oh, this must be my person. That's not always the case. And as we talked about in some other episodes of the podcast, everybody doesn't have a one. Okay, there might be a few people out there that have it. But I do believe there's quite a few people that resemble the one. And maybe it's more like we're putting together a puzzle of what it is that we think we want. Because we have all these pieces in front of us, but we don't have the final picture. And we just start putting together this puzzle piece as best as we can because we don't know. None of us knows the exact person that we're going to end up with. I mean, maybe you do, but I'd say for the most part, most people don't know the exact person that they're going to end up with. I have heard of people that have had, really cool experiences, and I've definitely had some cool experiences in my life that point us to who would be good and who would be awesome for us. But at the end of the day, we all have agency and So we don't know. The only thing we can do when it comes to trust, coming back again, is listen to this inner voice. This inner voice is so powerful, guys. It does everything. I had an experience last week. So I was working on some stuff and I had to figure out something to do with my Facebook and Instagram accounts. I had to figure out something about them, and I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. And I simply just went and I said a quick prayer. And within not very long, I was led to the idea of how to fix it. And it turns out, actually, I hadn't entered my password for a really long time. And the password was not what I thought the password was. But I wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have seen that. What if I told each of you that regardless of what you believe, for me it's God, it's Heavenly Father, that you can turn to and that you can seek His wisdom. The best wisdom we receive often doesn't come from us, it comes from Him. And it comes from other people as well. The wise that know. There's never been a more important time in the history of our world than to know how to listen to this inner voice. So how do you know? It leaves you feeling peace, guys. That's it. It leaves you feeling this just beautiful, peaceful feeling. So when you're having that, you can trust a lot of things that are coming to you. And you can even ask if those things are true. There has never been a more important time in the world when everybody has divided opinions about almost everything. How do you know what's best for you? Only through this inner voice. We were actually told by a religious leader of ours, Russell M. Nelson, that the only way that we could ever survive spiritually in the coming days was to be able to hear this voice, be able to hear the Spirit. And I think those days are really here. We have to know what is best for us through that inner voice, through that Spirit. If it leaves you feeling peace, that's telling you it's true. Whatever it is. You can always use that. You can use that to know. You can use that to know in people. You can use that to know in circumstances. You can use that to know for any of the decisions you have. And you can use that to know even to who to date or who you even connect with. And I just want to say, it's amazing to just have somebody listen. So often people have an agenda for a conversation. But I think the more somebody's able to just listen, and especially not judge us, guys, if somebody comes to you, especially somebody you're in a relationship with or thinking about being in a relationship with, and you judge them, you're going to lose their trust. There can be almost it's pretty hurtful when you go into, as I shared with that, particular girl, that here I was putting myself out here playing the guitar, and guys, back at the time, I wasn't that good. Now, if you look at Facebook or Instagram, I can play a little bit, and I can play songs, but back then, wow, I was pretty bad. But it really hurt when she went and told that to somebody else, one of my good friends. That was really weird and strange. Well, after that, it's been so long, I can't remember if I told her anything else, but we'll just go with I probably didn't tell her as much. Because it's like, okay, well, if you're going to hurt me like that, why am I going to tell you anything? Guys, if I put my hand on a thumbtack and it hurts, it's probably going to be best to just take it off. Like, if you're in a relationship with somebody and it's hurting, and you've even felt like it's the right time to get out, just get out. Sometimes we hold on to something because we're so afraid and we think something is better than nothing. You know, there was a time that I found out, like I said, I connect with very few girls, but I found out after the fact that this girl that I was dating was actually dating a bunch of different guys at the same time. And this girl was, super attractive and fun, and we had amazing chemistry. But apparently she had pretty good chemistry with a few other guys too. But when I found that out, and I found it out like after the fact, like she wasn't really forthcoming with it, that hurt, that stung. Be honest, guys. If you're gonna date multiple people, have the guts to be honest about it. I mean, no, if you're not exclusive, that's fine. But if you're gonna date multiple people, have the courage to be honest about it. If you don't want an exclusive relationship, then be clear. And there's something about that too, that it's important to have certain agreements. Now, I mean, here we're going into a whole nother thing about, when do we have a conversation about, what we are and if we are exclusive? And I don't know, guys. I don't know a lot of these answers. I truthfully just sit here in a room with my microphone and I bring whatever comes to my mind that I believe comes from Heavenly Father to share with you. But it all comes back to the inner voice. When you feel good about it, when you feel peace about taking that next step, and I actually think that when you get to the point that there's not another person that you would rather date, well, maybe, if you really, really, really want to date, let's say, Scarlett Johansson's coming to my mind. Well, I think she's actually married. But anyways, you guys get the idea. If there's some single Hollywood celebrity that you really want to date, but this other person's pretty awesome, yeah, you might. It's okay to go exclusive with that really awesome person. Like when you feel good about it, guys, when you feel peace. We all have this inner GPS, but it's like it sits there and we don't ask. And we don't even look. So on the GPS that I have, so I'm up in Minnesota right now, and I'm actually driving my dad's truck. My car's back in Arizona. Long story, but there's a GPS on the window, and what it does, it tracks all of your everywhere you go. Well, the GPS is always moving. Like the GPS is always showing you where the streets are, where you're at. But unless I give it a direction, it's not going to tell me where to go. But it does show everywhere I have been. So a lot of us are driving with these GPSs off. We're not in tune with, like, even if the destination is, hey, I just want to see where this goes. And I'm just going to play this out and see what happens. It's okay for the first while. You guys don't have to jump in and be like, okay, Joseph said we have to have agreements. It's our first date. This went pretty well. I think I want to kiss you. Can I kiss you? Is that okay? Guys, if you have to ask if you can kiss the girl, the answer is no. I know some people think that's like cute or romantic or whatever, but I'm guessing plenty of girls don't like that. There's something also about just living in the moment. I mean, this is really what this is about. And I know this is a little bit more, I don't want to say serious of a topic. I just know there's so many people that have so much pain around this topic. Like that's where this is all coming from. I know so many people struggle with how to trust again, and the answer is in degrees. I mean, that's the bottom line answer. But maybe we also don't have to take it so seriously. We're like, no, this person that I loved, they're gone forever. Whatever shall I do? I'll never find another one like them. Guys, enjoy your life. You don't have to worry about all of this stuff. Everything I talk to comes down to one thing. Listen to this inner voice. And I think it also comes down to do what you love. You know, there's a scripture that says men are that they might have joy. Go have fun. Go live your adventure. Stop worrying about everyone else's adventure and how they fit in yours and how you fit in theirs. Who cares? It just doesn't matter. We spend so much time thinking about that. Oh my goodness, this thing happened to me. How is it going to affect my life? Well, it's okay to have a few days or weeks or whatever you need. Like, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying there is a whole entire life to be lived out there. And if you think that one person broke your trust, guys, there's plenty more out there that will. I'm just saying you don't have to trust them all. You know, if you find out that, I'm trying to say something that I don't think would sound offensive, but if you find out that somebody that has, cheated on their last 99 girlfriends and they just cheated on their last one yesterday, probably wouldn't tell them my social security number and that I wanted to marry them. Just saying. Hey, they could change. But I know I'm using an extreme example. Use your common sense. I think so often we've given up our common sense. We've given up our power. If you want something, go get it. So often we sit in the corner and we ask questions like this of, how can I begin to trust again? Start living the life you want to, and when somebody comes into your path that makes you ask that question and reflect, do I want to trust this person? Then worry about it. I'm not saying to spend tons of time with people that, or give off a weird vibe or anything like that. I'm just saying, guys, we have a finite amount of time on this earth. It doesn't matter if we're single. It doesn't matter if we're kids. It doesn't matter if we're married. This is all you got. And I'm not trying to be harsh or anything. I'm just saying, I think that for me, here's one of the things that helped me this week, having gone through some stuff, literally. This was some really, really deep stuff that I realized just a couple of days ago. And I just turned to God. I turned to Heavenly Father and I talked to Him about it. And I said, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm going through. I don't want to be upset at the influential people that did this or person that did this. I just want to know how to move forward. I mean, isn't that the real question anyways that each of us is asking is, how can I move forward in the relationship? Degree by degree by degree by degree. Until you've moved so many degrees that you just fall crazy for this person and you're willing to share your life with them when you feel peace about doing so. Guys, this is your moment. This is your time. There's this really cool talk that was given in this inspirational conference that our church does, but it was called This Is Your Time. And it was by a former NFL quarterback. I think it was Gifford Nielsen, if I remember right. He said, guys, this is your time. This is the time that people have waited for forever. I mean, you look at our technology, you look at everything in the world. We live an amazing time. Make the most of it. And if you're scared, if you're worried, if you're nervous, you can go to whatever you believe is a higher power to you. I don't care what you call it. And even if you don't believe in a higher power, well, there's something that generally controls our brain and that probably controls the way the planets work and probably controls some of those other things that are just crazy, would be crazy phenomenons. Trust in that. Doesn't matter. Trust in something bigger than yourself, even if you can't see it. And then just go forward in your life at your pace. If somebody comes up and says these words to you, hey, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to get married. That's not your pace, that's their pace. And if somebody's pressuring you to marry them or get in a relationship with them or anything else, just don't do it. Now, please understand and be a little bit forgiving because sometimes people are just excited. You know, I one time, I didn't realize I was doing it, but I pretty much tried to pressure a girl to being into a relationship with me, and it did not work in the slightest. I said, come on, have some faith. We can do this. I'd actually just come out of a really inspirational conference, and I'm like, yeah, we're going to do this. It did not work in the slightest. Nobody wants to be told, first of all, to have faith, to dare greatly, to do anything you can think of like those lines. Let people come at their own pace. If you care about them enough, you will. No, you can make the choice if they're coming at a different pace than you want them to. You don't have to stick around either. You get a choice too, but so do they. And sometimes people are worth the wait for us, depending on who it is for you. You know, so kind of just backing up a little bit and just summing up today, guys, go forward at your pace, degree by degree, open yourself up. Like I just had the funniest picture of, it's like a drawbridge, but one of those that just, it's either closed or open. It doesn't open and shut slowly. It's okay. Actually, everything, many things, if you really think about it, have that. Like when I make a shake in the morning, my blender doesn't go from 0 to 1,000 instantaneously. It takes milliseconds, but it takes time. The hose, when you turn the water on, it takes time for that stream to build up. Allow yourself to go at your own pace. There's a scripture that says, don't run faster than you have strength. Don't run faster than you can. And be merciful with yourself, and also be merciful with others. As I shared before of, this really impactful thing that happened for me this week, I did not wish this person any ill will at all. I actually had more compassion for them. And the next thing coming to my mind is, in the movie I Can Only Imagine. It's this really cool movie about one of the most popular gospel type songs that's ever been written, called I Can Only Imagine. And one of the artists, I think it's Amy Grant, says, somebody that wrote such a beautiful song must have been through so much pain. And if you've seen the movie, he was. But if you've also seen the movie, there's a redemption quality for everybody. I don't think anyone wishes anyone ill will. I think we all want to help each other. We are all brothers and sisters. So have compassion with those people around you. And when you don't, fix it. I had an experience just a couple weeks ago. I said something that I didn't realize until a week later was offensive to this girl, that I made her feel less of a person. And, and it kind of came to, she said something a week later And then over the next week, I really thought about that and I really understood better how I'd impacted this person. And so I went and, talked to this person a few days ago and just said, hey, I am so sorry. I am truly so sorry. This is how I come off sometimes. And, you know, and I just shared with her and she was so gracious in accepting my apology. And she honestly accepted it. It wasn't like, oh, whatever. Like she honestly, truly accepted it. Guys, we're going to all mess up. Every single one of us. And when we understand that we've messed up many times and other people have forgiven us, then when other people mess up, we can forgive them. I'm not saying that we have to like totally forget and let them back into our lives. Like if somebody seriously like physically hurt you, I wouldn't let them back in my life. If somebody's physically abused you or something really bad, no, I wouldn't let them back in my life. There's a difference between forgiving and like common sense. You can forgive people and let go of the pain and the suffering that come with some of these things, but you can also use your common sense. So go at your own pace, guys. Have compassion with yourself and have compassion with other people, and you'll do all right. Now, if you've made it to this point in the podcast, I'd like to invite you to go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. I don't know how you got here, but that way, if you ever want to get back here again, it's right there for you in your subscriptions. And if you haven't already joined us, one of the really cool things that I do that's free for anyone that would like to participate is each Monday morning at 10 a.m. Arizona time, I host a group coaching call for Happy and Single. Anyone is welcome to come on, and you can even receive a little bit of one-on-one coaching time with me, depending on how many people are in the call. Now, every now and then that schedule changes, so you can go to the website happynsingle.com to be able to look at the schedule and also to be able to find the link to the Zoom room. Now, at the same time, if you would prefer a more one-on-one type of coaching experience where you can sit down and share your hopes and dreams and just kind of the stuff going on in your world, then there's another option available for you as well. Now, the bulk of my business is actually doing one-on-one coaching. If that's something you're interested in exploring, I've got a few spots open in my coaching practice. You can just message me on Instagram at the It's Possible Guy, and we can sit down and have a chat. And it doesn't matter where you're at in the world. I've worked with people across the world. I do everything over Zoom, so it actually makes it pretty easy. Thank you guys so much again for listening. And go out and live your adventure. Thank you.